Wow, did you have children? Don't they need a dad? Aren't you worried they'll be confused? Are you trying to make your kids gay? Let's talk about what people really want to ask queer parents, but are too awkward or polite to ask. So some of these questions come from curiosity, some come from misunderstanding, some come from a more complicated place.
Complicated place.
But we're going to answer them openly, breaking down barriers and whatnot. Oh, this is our oldest child. This is Matilda. We call her Tilly.
Used to be on so much more of our content.
So, queer families shouldn't be a mystery. And of course, I can't bust myths alone. So my beautiful wife is returning. Yes. Parenting, after all, is a team sport. So for those of you who are just joining us, hi, I'm Jessica. This is Claudia, when she's not distracted by a dog. I mean, you're actually always Claudia. This is Claudia. She's often distracted by a dog.
This is Tilly.
And this is Tilly, who's going to help us answer some questions today. We have been married for 10 years this year.
My goodness.
I know. Wait, so we've been married for 9.5 years at this point, right now. And we have 3 children, a 4 3/4-year-old, he's getting specific about that, and twin babies who are 9 months old now.
10 months? Wait, what's the date?
No, they're not.
Alright, I keep telling everyone they're 10 months.
Why are you telling? How long have you been telling people this?
I've lost count.
They were also premature, so we get very confused.
Yeah, also they're massive for their age, so that's also confusing.
They're huge. We took them to a baby twin group and we put them down and we were like, sorry, we should probably not put them near the other babies. They might crush them. First question, how do your children know who their real mum is? That's a really weird question because we are their real mums.
Yes. What does real mum mean? I know what they mean. When people ask this question, it's like, you know, it's the same as like, where are you from? It's not explicit.
No, when people say, where are you from? And they ask you and then they ask me, they do mean different things.
Exactly. So it's not explicit, but we know what they're asking.
Yeah.
Who's the real mum?
If you mean who gave birth to them, they know.
Or is that what people think is the real mum? No. Or is it more to do with like, whose egg was it, you know?
Yeah, it definitely is more to do with the genetics aspect of it.
I don't know, I think there's equal weight to like, who like birthed, who carried in birth.
I almost feel like when they're little babies, people are asking it to say who gave birth.
Yeah.
Because they want to talk about birth stuff. And they want to be like, who breastfed these babies?
Yes.
Who's doing
but I think
all this? But then when they get older, it's like, who's the genetic parent?
I mean, I would say like living in Brighton, mixing with other mothers who are also our age and from our generation. I don't think I've come across someone asking me like, which one of you's the real mum? I think it's more like, which one of you gave birth? Which one of you carried? They do ask those things, which also I do feel like, unless you're going to follow it up with, how was your birth?
Yeah.
Did you have a C-section?
This is a reason.
Do you breastfeed? Unless there's a reason for why you've asked that question. Why is that relevant?
Especially with the twins. Like, it makes sense if you are a twin parent and you're asking, so then you can go, how did you find it? Because when I had the twins in me, it was like, oh, and then I got really tired. Were you also really tired? Yeah. That makes sense, yes.
But outside of like Brighton and outside of like other mums of our generation, like people do.
Older people.
Older people
Definitely.
And
travelling. Whenever we're travelling, this is the main question.
I don't know, because they don't say who's the real mum, they just say who's the mum.
Yeah.
That's a whole other question.
Yeah, no, that really is, yeah. I would say that DNA isn't something that we necessarily, as a queer family, prioritise, because we have a lot of chosen family members, and being biologically related to someone doesn't really affect how much you love them. Love is far more important than genetic. Like, I don't love the children less than you do. This is especially relevant because we are just about to go to Malaysia, which, for those of you who don't know, is a Muslim country where it's actually illegal
to be
publicly homosexual.
Yes, but it's fine to go as a tourist.
It is.
It's not like we're banned from visiting.
No, we're not.
And we've had like a close friend of ours who's in a same-sex relationship with a man, and they have children. They've been out there on holiday.
But we're not just going there on holiday. We are going there to go and see family, and so that the girls have a chance to like meet the other side of their family.
If I wasn't half Malaysian and we didn't have family there and that part of that kind of connection, I would just say let's go to Thailand. Like if we wanted to go to Southeast Asia.
If you weren't half Malaysian, why would we go on a plane for 13 hours
Good point.
with baby twins? No, we just go to Spain.
Why would we go to Spain?
For the sun. We're pretty open about our lives here on YouTube, but that doesn't mean we want our personal data, or yours, being treated like an open book by everyone else online. Which is why we are so thrilled that the sponsor of this video takes your digital security and privacy seriously.
Surfshark VPN. Think about it. Every time you go online, especially in public Wi-Fi, you're leaving a trail. Your IP address, your location, what you're buying and booking, all of that's exposed. Surfshark VPN allows you to encrypt your connection so you can stay protected even when using public and unknown Wi-Fi. No hacking, tracking or snooping. But the benefits don't stop at security. Surfshark also lets you safely access content from anywhere in the world by connecting to over 4,500 servers in over 140 locations, which is a lot. And fantastic when we want to catch a UK show that isn't available in Malaysia, because yes, that's where we are right now as you watch this. If you're watching this within the next 3 weeks. I mean, if you're watching it after that, then we're in England again. But then we'll be using Surfshark to see things that are in Malaysia, so it works out well. Just like we decide who gets to call us mummy in our family, Surfshark helps you decide who gets to see your online activity. It's queer friendly. If you want to stop the snooping and start protecting your digital life, try Surfshark now by heading to surfshark.com/Jessica or use code Jessica at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. Or if it's easier, you can just scan this QR code on the screen right now. Alright, now back to answering your incredibly nosy questions. Are you ready for the next one?
Don't they need a dad for a male role model?
Well, I mean, there's not much we can do about that. I mean, like, we don't have a man in this family, so...
Yeah, okay.
When people say that, it's like, what do you want me to do about it? Like, suddenly, like, become a throuple?
I was gonna find
Why,
one.
what?
I do think that, like, having positive male role models is better than having a negative one by default, right? Like, just because someone happens to be your dad doesn't mean that they are the best version of masculinity that you could look up to and aspire to. I think it's much better to then intentionally surround your child with male role models that you think are really great.
It is an interesting one. I mean, I don't think it has to be, you know, a dad, but it is an interesting, like, point about, like, a male role model. Sometimes I do, like, think about that for not just Rupert, but for the girls, because I have no experience of being brought up in a same-sex relationship. I had a dad and a mum. But then if I think about, like, my predominantly, like, raised by women. I have a sister, a mum, I had a grandma, I didn't have any granddads. All my teachers at school were predominantly women. I went to an all-girls school. Like, so I guess in a part of that is my brain is a bit like, I didn't need like a male role model. I like, you know, I don't get
You did have a dad.
but I did have a dad, exactly. Anyway, my point is it's easy to say like, oh no, they don't need it. Like, we'll educate him or them about, you know, what it is to be a man. But I have no experience of what it's like to be a man.
Oh no, I'm not saying that we should be the ones to teach them about masculinity. I'm just saying we should be the ones to choose who the men are in their lives.
Yes, but I think that'd be by default of who like we're friends with.
Yeah. Like, obviously we'd only be friends with nice guys. We're going to be friends with a manosphere guy, just for fun. Bring him in.
I guess, like, maybe we've got an advantage in that sense that because we don't have to have a male...
Oh, like, you don't have to hate your husband's toxic best friend.
Yeah, or, like...
Like, your husband could be great. He could have a really horrible best friend, and he comes and teaches my son terrible things.
I wish we did have more male friends, I probably would admit, actually.
We can go mix
I think it'd be nice to have some more nice male friends who, like, we had around our children, because actually that is an area that I can't fill. And even though I can be like, oh, it doesn't really matter, like, I think it probably does. Like, I don't know how it would affect someone not having any type of one or the other.
I also think we do a good job already of teaching the children that traits aren't necessarily prescribed to a gender. You don't have to be a man to be the person in the household that does the handy tasks. You don't have to be a man to be the person in the household who mows the lawn, because that's always you.
Yeah, definitely agree that we don't need a man around to show gender roles, because we don't believe in gender roles, and I think it's good. I think actually having a same-sex parent family should help, hopefully, like, educate a child naturally with that, because they'll see that their parents do everything. I mean, I say that. We do sometimes get a handyman in. As long as I can't physically pick up certain heavy bits of furniture. Actually, Rupert really loves it when handymen come in.
He does.
Maybe that's his example of a masculinity. He's like, strong. He does tell us, when I'm older, I will be strong and I'll be able to pick things up for you. But I think, like, I think it would be nice to have some more male friends to just have an example of what it's like to exist as a man.
Yes, we do have, like, their uncle, my brother, and your dad, and they do have examples, they do see things. And I like that at school Rupert has Men.
It's a co-ed school as well, so it's got older boys and yeah.
How did you have children? Yeah. This is a very I think, obvious question that
like,
people like to ask to women.
Again, that's just people wanting to know the genetics and who got pregnant.
Sort of, sometimes. I remember once I was with Rupert, a lady came up to me and just straight out said, "Is he adopted?" And I was like, he's right here.
Yeah, that's weird.
If he was, that's not great to just randomly burst out with that in front of my child. I was like, no, he isn't. My wife carried, and with my wife, blah, blah, blah. I went through the whole story. If you would like to know, by the way, more about our journey to having children, we've made some videos about that, and you can watch them there by clicking the card. But I think when people come out with this question that is, like you were saying about pregnancy, it's why are they asking? Are they asking because they also have an adopted child and they just really want to connect with another parent? They want to find another child who is also adopted so that theirs can be friends together. Again, Rupert's not adopted. Or is it that they are just really nosy? And then you kind of think like, do I need to answer this? Do I want to answer this? What's in the best interests of my child? I think also people tend to think like there is the onus on queer people that we have to educate. You don't have to give away all of your own personal information.
There definitely is an element of like, when you go to like a baby group or like a child's party, people definitely feel more at liberty to ask. It's like, well, you made a choice. You made a very active choice to have children. So therefore you should be able to like be at liberty to tell me exactly how you made them. That's what you chose to do.
Give me all of your child's information.
Yeah, you know, kind of it's a bit like that. Whereas if it was a straight couple, you wouldn't ask them like, how did you make your child?
There are single mothers in the world, and I really don't think it's right for anyone to go up to them and say, "So I've noticed you're a single mother. Is that because that was by choice, or did the father of your child leave you? What happened?" It's the same thing. It's not okay to really demand a backstory.
It's interesting how many like assumptions people do. Like if you saw a man and a woman with a child, people will automatically believe that that child is genetically that couple's child.
And that those are their parents.
Yeah.
Whereas that could just be her friend.
Exactly.
That she's there
That could be
for the
her.
day.
That could be her brother. That's like uncle and aunt. Like it could be.
Yeah.
It could be anything. And then they wouldn't be subjected to like all the questions, and all the like quizzical looks. But you see like two women and a baby, or two men and a baby. That's the most like, oh, two men and a baby. They're like people are like, where's the mother? Oh no, look, that one looks a little bit gay. Oh no, maybe they're both. Oh, they look like they're the dads. Oh, dad's and a baby. I don't know why it's such a spectacle.
We have two friends who are two dads, and an old lady came up to them on a train and said, "If you need, I can take your baby and change her nappy at any point." And they were like, "You're a random stranger. Aren't you worried they'll be confused?" We talk to them a lot about a lot of things.
If it's all they've ever known and they were born into it, why would they be confused? Surely it's more confusing for someone whose like parents get divorced.
Yeah.
Than having same-sex parents.
It's an unexpected change in life.
If you mean like, is it confusing because books and media and things like that represent a heteronormative family bubble, and then they're like, wait, that's not my family. My family doesn't look like that. Well then just get books that have like two mom families.
Yes.
Or different types of family. We have like so many different books and so many different books.
We have. I've really researched. I will leave a link actually down in the description where you can find many books that have same-sex parents in.
Yeah.
So I think there is a level of being really intentional. Small children aren't stupid, and they do know that not everyone is the same as them. And as parents, it's sort of our job to recognise and validate their own observations. So say to them, yes, I see you've noticed that, yes. Every family has a different setup of adults and children, and go through it with them. Like Rupert knows some children have two mums, some have two dads, some have a mum and a dad, some only have one parent, some have more than two parents.
Some people don't have parents,
some people
have grandparents.
Yeah, raised by a grandparent, some people with foster carers.
So from a young age, like since he's basically been verbal, he has always said, where's that child's adult? Or look, that boy is with their adult. Because we taught him not to make the assumption that just because that child is with a man and a woman, that's their mum and dad.
We were with friends the other day and the little girl said to him, "Is your dad dead?" Because she has a mum and a dad, and she was like, "Where's your dad? What happened to him?" And River was like, "No, I never had a dad. I have two mums. Some families have two mums and some have a mum and a dad, like yours." She was like, oh, great. Interesting.
I think it would have been more of an issue maybe in the past when there wasn't as much representation in both books and on screen. Now, like, we have access to so many different programs and internet. I mean, Rupert doesn't really watch screens anyway. We make an effort, like you said, to choose books that not just about LGBTQ families. I mean, we have some of the books like that, but mostly it's about like just representation in all different areas.
Yeah, I think talking about things is really the most important thing that you can do to help a child not feel confused, to help them not feel different, explain variation in the world and how that works. And I think it's been really good for him that we started at such a young age, even when he was a baby.
Won't your child be confused? I think it happens more the other way around, to be honest. If you're born into what is the norm of a heteronormative family bubble and your parents don't expose you, because it wouldn't be maybe on their conscious radar to expose you to a range of diversity, especially in terms of LGBTQ plus families, it may never come up. And until that child potentially goes to school and then comes across a child who does have two parents who are the same sex, and then I think they would be the ones who are like a bit confused, like the girl who said, "Is your dad dead?"
Yes.
You know? Whereas Rupert is the one who's actually very informed.
Are you trying to make your kids gay? I don't think you can make a kid gay. My parents weren't gay. I'm gay.
My parents aren't gay and I'm gay.
Wow. Goodness, look at that.
I think in the same respect of won't your child be confused, it's the same sort of thing, because they're like exposed to different forms of love and acceptance of all different forms of love from the get-go. I think they feel more at liberty to actually be and express themselves and fall in love with who they feel they want to fall in love with. Therefore, because there's no judgment on any of that, I just think they would just be free to do what they want, which is what we want for our kids. And that might be that they are gay and they do come out as gay. I don't think we can make them gay.
No. I'd love to know how. But no, I think it's just who you are as a person. Like, I knew that I was gay from the age of 4, and it wasn't even about liking other people necessarily. Like, it was me. It was a part of my identity, and it wasn't something that came from my surroundings. It was just who I am. I do have a queer friend though whose son came out to her as straight because he thought that everyone has to come out.
I feel like that could happen to us. I feel like our children would say, like, just so you know.
Sit you down.
Yeah.
Are you raising your son and daughters differently?
I would try not.
I don't know, because he's 4 and
exactly. They're only like
half, and
we are
babies.
raising them differently because he's a child and they're babies, so
and they're twins.
They have different needs.
There will obviously be some things that we have to do differently because of the way the world perceives them. And there are different things that they're kind of at risk for. We were watching the Manosphere documentary last night with Louis Theroux. So having a boy, having him grow up to be a teenage boy surrounded by other teenage boys, even if we don't allow our child access to the internet and giving him a smartphone and having that kind of technology around him until he is in his teens. I mean, we're not going to give him a smartphone until he's at least over the age of 16. No social media.
He thinks at the moment he's going to get a smartphone when he's 18. Not that he's asked for a smartphone, he's aware of the smartphone. And
but he thinks all technology is like work related because of what we do.
To be honest, the only reason he wants a smartphone is because he thinks it takes photos.
Yeah, we could just get him in digital.
I don't think he knows smartphones go on the internet. He doesn't really get that. He can't even use the camera because we don't let him use our phones. He can't get that you have to if you want to take a picture of something, you have to put the phone between you and the thing.
No.
And he's just he really doesn't get it.
No. Even if he's being raised without those things and without the kind of potential to fall into these content traps, the other boys in his life may have that. So we need to continue to have conversations with him about masculinity, about positive masculinity. We need to keep introducing those really positive male role models checking in with him in a really different way than we would with the girls. I mean, obviously there'd be many things that they cross over on.
There'll be things with the girls that we have to, there's not the manosphere, but there's going to be the whole other side of
much,
that.
Yeah.
The
looks-based content.
Yeah, or the beauty image and the hierarchy of all of that and what that means and...
Living a life for boys.
Yeah,
I was so sad when my friends got to that age where suddenly they wanted to do things for boys' attention, and I was like, what? Yeah. No, guys, no. Can we all just keep playing together? No. Sad lesbian. Alone.
You're in your element up until the age of 12.
Yeah, I know. I was like, we're making friendship bracelets.
Yeah.
Wait, you want to go talk about boys? It was very sad.
Teenage years. I'm not looking forward to those. I have been told many times that teenage boys are a lot easier than teenage girls. I'm sure they will come with,
Absolutely not.
I'm sure they will come with their like.
We experienced being teenage girls, but we didn't experience being a teenage boy. We're gonna have to do lots of learning.
We've got to make some friends with some good males, some good role models.
Thank you so much for watching our video answering some of the awkward questions that people often ask queer families. We hope that you've enjoyed the video. Maybe you've learned some things. Let us know. Also, if you have other intrusive questions, then we can maybe answer in a follow-up video. I'm also going to leave some links in the description to some book lists that have really good varieties of not just same-sex parent books, but diverse family books, and books that are also have diversity in different ways as well. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in our next video. Bye-bye.
Bye.